Hey guys, I think I got a pretty short one for you today, but I decided to title this one, How to Win the Lottery. It's a guaranteed way. It's an almost guaranteed way. It's not guaranteed, okay? But it's almost guaranteed. The best way to win the lottery is to never buy a ticket. You know what you do instead? You go buy books. Right? Financial books. And I love how I did a previous episode talking about how people are very cynical and skeptical towards books. I have read or listened to dozens of books. In fact, I am constantly looking for more books. So if it pertains to anything business-wise, I specifically listen to business podcasts almost every single day. I've got a lot of different channels that I follow, and that is how my brain operates. I love primitive archery, and I love flint knapping and primitive hunting, but I love the game of business. And I also love making money. And I don't love the idea of making money to go buy a jet or a yacht or be frivolous with it. I love the game of money like I'm playing a game of Monopoly, which is to win the game at the end of the day and have a whole bunch of assets. I play the game of money to basically build a portfolio to have a very wealthy retirement and not blow the money frivolously, but to also give my kids a stepping stone. And I don't mean raise spoiled kids and then hand them a bunch of money and they don't have to do anything. I'm literally giving my children privilege by the opportunity of saying, and this is the plan, and thus far we're going strong on it because this is the second house that I've bought cash now. And we're looking at another one. So I got 2 boys. The idea is when my kids are old enough and they need a starter house, Dad's going to give them one to start with. Now I still own the house and it's not theirs to necessarily keep, but this way, when they get married and they want to start their own little small family, they're not jumping into rent. They're not jumping into a house payment. They have a place that, as long as they are doing intelligent things with their money and growing their own investment portfolios and saving to buy the house that they want, that's really going to fit their life, they have an opportunity to save that money by staying in a place that Dad afforded them. That's what I like to do with the money, and that to me is way more valuable than winning the lottery. Right? So learning how to do all that stuff, you're only going to learn it through channels that are going to teach you how to do it, or books. You're never going to learn that mentality through lottery. And most people sit around and play the lottery every week. They go in, they got to play their numbers. I see it all the time. Play their numbers, play their numbers. How many times you've ever heard that story too, right? Somebody's like, oh, I was sick a week and I missed the lottery and they pulled my numbers. I lost $10 million, and they're just devastated over it. And it's like, I'm sure you've heard those stories plenty of times. And then also, I have a very good friend who was in finances, owned a financial advisory company for many years, very successful. And he also confirmed, and I've heard this story many times, I've never personally known anybody that won the lottery, but he has confirmed what many people have other people have said, which is those that win the lottery typically end up worse off than they were before they won the lottery because they don't know how to steward the money. So everybody's sitting around wishing for a chunk of money. It's not even how you get the money, it's what you do with the money. You need to have an understanding of finance before you even get the money. So to hopefully to play the lottery in hopes of just getting that big payday, you're actually doing yourself a massive disservice. The way to almost surely win the lottery is to start putting your time and your lottery money into buying books. And you can buy used books off of Amazon for like $2, $3, $5 a piece sometimes. You don't even have to go to a used bookstore, but you could probably find some there. But you can also get a lot of those books for free on YouTube. So you can you can look them up and listen to a lot of these old books that have old principles that are proven and still proven to this day. They're just worldly principles that work. Richest Man in Babylon, I've talked about that plenty of times. Wonderful book. So many proven concepts in that book, and I've shared that book with people and watched them turn their life around by reading one book, and now all of a sudden they're into those books. That's why I talk about that in that video, why skeptics and cynics never win, is because they're so cynical about it that they won't read the book, and those are the type of the people that end up going and trying to win the lottery. So that's what I'm trying to tell you guys today, is change your philosophy on how you look at money and playing the lottery. If you read the books and you put, and I don't mean read and comprehend, those are very important, but the most important part of reading these books or listening to these books is implementation. You must do what the books say. There is not a specific path that you have to follow, but because there's many different ways to build wealth or to build generational wealth or to pass stuff along to your children. There's many ways of doing it, so you don't have to follow exactly what somebody else does. You dream up what your life is going to look like. I talked about that in a previous video. Sit down with a pen and paper and say, what does my life look like in 10, 15, 20, 30 years? When I'm 80 years old, if I live that long, what do I want my life to look like? Do you think at 80 years old, you're going to really care about all that extra fancy stuff, or would you actually care a lot more knowing that you can afford to stay in your own house for your end of life care? You get to see that your kids are doing really well, and you've got grandkids that are now being taught the same principles. That to me is where the value was. It was far less than saying I had all this fancy stuff and I'm glad that I had it. And sure, I've got a couple fancy little things, at least to my standard. But more importantly to me is I would rather be sitting around the dinner table looking at my family going, I really helped these kids out. So that to me is truly winning the lottery. And I cannot entrust, how many people play the lottery their entire life and never win? I cannot entrust the success of myself and my family on buying a ticket. I do not play the lottery. In fact, I got to a point where I specifically did not want to win the lottery because it was more important to me to know how to build the wealth myself, because nothing gets under my skin more than when somebody says, oh, well, you just got lucky. And it's like, dude, if you saw where my life was, there was nothing lucky about that. I had to scrape and build this. I earned this. And I am very proud that I have been able to earn the position that I'm in. Nobody just gave me the money. Okay? Now, everybody tends to get a little bit of money from somewhere in their life. Okay? So this is another important point. Whether you don't win the lottery or not, and you may not even realize that it's coming, but most people get a little break somewhere. Something happens usually. It's something like maybe you get a small inheritance. Okay, so I've had a couple friends over the years get different inheritance monies, and I've watched some people put that money into investments and actually grow that money, and I've seen other people, especially ones that were really, really young, ended up taking that money and then just going and blowing it and the money's gone. It's not how you get the money even, it's how you steward the money. And so the important thing is to learn how to steward the money. You think you know how to steward money right up until you don't, right? Till all the money's gone. You think stewarding the money is going out and buying a fly whip, you know, and a fly whip for old folks like me is a cool car, I think. I don't know. They called them fly whips when I was a kid. So anyway, read the books and learn finances. And you'd say, man, that doesn't sound like fun. I don't want to do that. Is it more fun to read the books and learn the tricks and then be financially successful and free and have a great retirement? And I don't mean retire broke. I don't mean just put money into a retirement fund and work, and then when I'm done working, I sit at home and I just draw a very small check and I live very, very small. I mean really investing money into different areas, building a portfolio, and you retire wealthy. And then you don't eat all of it up, but you have assets that you can pass down to your children and your children's children. In the Bible, it specifically talks about that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. And I know that some people say that they interpret the inheritance as as a knowledge and a belief in Christ, which I totally get, and that is an inheritance that should be passed down as well. But it specifically talks in the Bible that about houses, it's about properties and riches. That's what they say that a good man gives his children and his children's children an inheritance. But then also I would add to that, which I'm sure is also in the Bible, but I can't phrase exactly where, but you would need to teach them to steward that money as well. As you'll see with a lot of really wealthy families, they only last for a couple generations. Very few last for long generations because they don't teach their children and their children's children how to steward the money. They just give them everything. And that's why, yes, I plan on giving my children a starter house, but it is not their house to keep. It is a place to give them a stepping stone. Now, if they bought their own house afterwards and they have proven that they know how to make the money, then guess what? Whenever I'm gone, if we still have the starter houses or if I had to cash them in for other investments, it's hard to say. Guess who's going to be the beneficiary of that? They're going to get that. And then guess what? Now they've got a house that they will be able to give to one of their children. And that's how you pass down inheritances. But the only way that you are truly going to win the lottery, your best chance of winning the lottery and keeping the money from said lottery, is to build the wealth yourself. And that is going to come from listening to audiobooks or reading books, and not just reading and comprehension, but implementing those practices.